On December 2nd, President Park Geun-hye appointed Kim Jin-tae as the head of the Prosecutor's Office and Moon Hyung-pyo as the Health and Welfare Minister. The two positions had been vacant for over 2 months. The president delayed the appointments due to strong objections by the opposition party after a bill confirming the appointment of chief for the Board of Audit and Inspection was unilaterally passed by the ruling Saenuri Party last week. What was the position of the Presidential Office of Cheongwade over the decision? Presidential Office correspondent Jin-joo brought us the story.
To minimize disruptions to government affairs amid prolonged gridlock at the National Assembly.
However, as the opposition Democratic Party has been opposing candidate Moon as Health and Welfare Minister for allegedly using a corporate credit card for personal use, attention is being drawn to their future moves.
Arirang News.
Of many.
This past week, there was shocking news that North Korea's second-in-command, Jang Sung-taek, had been ousted from his position as vice chairman of the National Defense Commission. The National Intelligence Service says that 2 close key aides of Jang Sung-taek were executed publicly. Jang Sung-taek has long been a patron to North Korea's Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un and was seen as a key insider to North Korea's power structure. The South Korean government has been cautious about making any hasty conclusions about the dismissal of Jang Sung-taek. But if it holds true, its effect on North Korea and inter-Korean relations will be great. Defense Ministry correspondent Han Da-eun brought us the story.
다음 아리랑 뉴스.
On December 3rd, there was a bipartisan agreement over the government budget issue, which has been the cause of heated dispute. The agreement came 5 days after proceedings at the National Assembly were brought to a standstill over the enforced appointment of the candidate to head the prosecutor's office, Hwang Ji-hye. The ruling Saenuri Party and main opposition Democratic Party have stepped back from agreeing on the deal.
The NIS Reform Committee will consist of an equal number of lawmakers from both parties and will be chaired by a Democratic Party leader. We'll further discuss the timing and scope of an independent probe into the NIS.
The budget proposal for the new year is expected to pass within this year. Reporter Ji Myung-gil looked into the bipartisan agreement.
Arirang News.
December 4th, 2013.
송도가 명실상부한 국제도시로 성장할 수 있는 계기를 만들었고
It was the day that Korea yet again introduced its global status to the world.
Single developing country I go to.
아니 뭘 못 들어가 여기서 찍을 수 있는 거 아니야? 인포가 뒤에 갔죠.
Someone has been reporting on the special events of the day.
끝.
Reporter Hwang Ji-hye starts her day's work early in the morning since it is a special day for Korea's economic sector. The day marks the beginning of the World Bank's Korea office. The commemorative event gathered many important figures who came to extend their congratulations on the special day.
기자간담회 15분 정도 하는 것 같아요. 녹취는 이 사람하고 현우석 두 명만 뭐 하다가 근데 여기가 축사가 있는데 그냥 다 할 필요 없고
Ji-hye takes a spot in the front row in order to get detailed accounts of the event. While other media outlets start to gather at the event, she maintains her composure as she forms the main structure of her story. The event is soon packed with people. The opening ceremony follows.
Once again, I extend my congratulations on the opening of the World Bank Group Korea office. Now,
From the Deputy Prime Minister for Economic Affairs, To the mayor of Incheon, where the World Bank office is located, important figures attended with messages of congratulations. One person at the meaningful event is the head of the World Bank, Ji Myung-gil.
Consultants can help by continuing to invest in emerging markets, and specifically in an effort to find ways for the World Bank Group to take the lessons of Korea and share them with the world. There's not a single developing country I go to.
All eyes are on the head of the World Bank, while Ji-hye makes sure she does not miss any of his words or expressions. There is heated enthusiasm and celebration as the World Bank makes its first step in Korea.
Today, the opening ceremony for the Korean office of the World Bank Group took place in Songdo. And I guess this is a very meaningful event in that it's the first local office of a global financial institution to come to open in Korea. And also, Korea used to be a receiver in terms of global fund. But now it's a country who actually supports developing countries by giving money and support to them. So that explains also why this is such a meaningful event.
Ji-hye makes her way to another location with the news team.
여기는 여기대로 찍고 카메라가 2대 왔어야 됐다, 그치? 네, 저 황지인데 여기 그 3층으로 가야 돼요. 그 녹색 3층으로. 그럼 1층은 뭐예요? 이걸 제일 처음 하죠, 리본 커팅을. 알겠습니다. 여기 리본 커팅. 그러니까 이거 찍어야 되지 않아? 이거 그래도
못 들어가게 하는데?
아니 뭘 못 들어가? 여기서 찍을 수 있는 거 아니야? 들어갈 필요가 뭐가 있어? 리본 커팅 바로 여기 앞에서 하는 건데.
This time, she is at the opening ceremony for the Green Climate Fund. There was a large pool of media attention at the event that marks an important day. President Park Geun-hye also attended to celebrate the opening of the UN Climate Fund headquarters. Ji-hye hurries up the stairs.
대신 못 받아요? 카메라 기자도 그럼 올라와야 돼요?
다 직접 받으셔야 돼요.
She is proactive about extending help even on location. But
신분증 안 갖고 왔어?
가방에 다 그냥 있어.
안 갖고 왔어?
차에 있는데?
왜 이래 오늘 다. 저희 촬영해야 되는데 등록은 다 돼 있거든요? 근데 신분증을 제 거는 비표가 있는데 여기 지금 신분증을 안 갖고 와서 좀 해주시면 안 돼요? 근데 여기 다 등록이 돼 있어서. 근데 비표 이거 아니에요? 이것만 있어도 입장할 수 있어요? 아니 여긴 기자실이야. 그냥 저기 안에 들어가서 하면 돼.
Ji-hye looks into the screen at the press room after an attempt to lead her staff into the convention room.
Thank you. Please be seated. Welcome to the opening ceremony.
The opening ceremony finally begins.
Please welcome her with a big round of applause. 녹색 기후 기금 사무국 출범을 축하하기 위해 먼 길을 와주신 여러분께 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. 녹색 기후 기금은 이러한 도전에 대응하기 위한 인류의 노력과 개도국에 대한 특별한 지원이 필요하다는 국제사회의 공감대를 바탕으로 탄생했습니다.
As Ji-hye watches the opening ceremony closely, she writes down important notes she'll use in her news story. By the way, this recent event has special meaning for Ji-hye.
Okay, Ji-hye, first of all, tell us what the Green Climate Fund is all about.
Well, it's a United Nations body set up to be the world's single
Ji-hye reported on Korea being selected as the host of the Green Climate Fund 1 year earlier at the same location. How will she form her story as she looks at the project, which has developed over the past year?
More foreign investment. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News, Incheon. The atmosphere was very, very different. It was more jittery in a sense because nobody knows what's going to happen. But at the same time, it was more sort of exciting because like right after the announcement that Songdo was decided as the host city for the headquarters. Like everyone was like really busy. President Lee Myung-bak showed up, so it was more about like the festivity sort of Songdo being chosen as the host city. But while today it was more like people, important people coming to the ceremony, like the president of the World Bank and also the chief of the International Monetary Fund, and also President Park Geun-hye came, and I guess that those kind of people outshine the event this time.
There is more weight upon the fact that the Green Climate Fund is the first major global environmental agency to base itself in Korea. It's being referred to as the World Bank of the environment sector. Ji-hye also listens in with sincerity. It is 2 p.m. and the camera crew walks into the press room, which soon starts to bustle.
Press briefing of the Green Climate Fund, that is headquarters are officially open for business today in Songdo.
There's been a general consensus among developed countries to raise funds for the Green Climate Fund.
This is the only interview of the event, and reporters are taking full advantage of it.
Of the private sector more viable thanks to the concessional resources of the Green Climate Fund.
Thank you for your participation and a keen interest in the GCF. Thank you.
These days, the global society is going through major environmental issues. Like, for instance, recently the typhoon Haiyan struck the Philippines and it devastated a whole part of a country. And the people who came to the opening ceremony were talking a lot about that we need some kind, especially developing nations need some kind of infrastructure to countermeasure these kind of natural catastrophes. So countries should be prepared for these kind of natural disasters, and to do that, the Green Climate Fund will gain more importance in the future.
The event comes to an end and other reporters start to leave the location. Ji-hye stays in her seat while she goes over her story.
그 월드뱅크는 어제 말한 것처럼 그냥 단신으로 빼고 GCF는 패키지하고.
She talks to the editor on the phone.
그러니까 그거를 다 뒤로 다 빼도 상관없는 거예요. 그러니까 근데 오늘 발표된 내용에서는 이런 게 있었다 이러고 그냥 끝 해도 되는 거예요?
알겠습니다. 오늘도 잘 마무리할게요. 감사합니다. 네.
She gets off the phone with a smile. Ji-hye makes sure she double-checks every detail. It's a process she's worked on to develop a perfect story.
I think today's GCF headquarters. 아까도 자른 거 아니었어?
잘랐는데 근데 뒤에 여지를 좀 남겨가지고 혹시나 이만큼 날로 먹었는데.
그 가운데는 이펙트 넣어주는 게 낫지 안 튀면 안 넣어도 되고.
디졸브도 아니대. 그 생각에는 와이프 같은 거.
이렇게?
또 하나 뭐였지?
그 짐용킴.
It's been a while since she's worked on a story with intense concentration. It seems like she's spending more time than usual.
The opening ceremony was attended by many global leaders, and they all made official comments during the ceremony. So I had a lot of options to choose in terms of soundbite, and that's also one of the reasons why I didn't do any separate interviews of some of the leaders that came to to celebrate the opening ceremony. And usually reporters don't have that many options, so this time it was difficult in an unusual way in that I had to choose some of the sound bites that I had. And that's where I think I spent a little bit of time to decide on that matter.
차 어디 있어요? 지하 3층이요?
Ji-hye walks down to the parking lot alone.
In support of the global cause, Korea has pledged $1 million
She has to dub her story.
until 2019 in operation costs.
There isn't a dubbing room at the site, so she has found the quietest area, the inside of the car. It's a little trick she's developed over many experiences at different locations.
Good.
Finally, it is time for the stand-up. It's the last bit of her story.
For the next 6 months, the Green Climate Fund will finalize the rules and procedures for receiving public and private funds to address issues regarding climate change. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
Arirang's Hwang Ji-hye has more on the opening of the largest UN organization to be based in Korea.
Arirang's Hwang Ji-hye reports from the venue.
The headquarters of the United Nations.
Korea has grown into a nation that used to receive international aid 50 years ago to a country that is now able to extend help to other nations.
Tackling global warming. The Republic of Korea.
Reporter Hwang Ji-hye was there to record the events of a significant day.
There were many countries that desperately wanted to have the GCF based in their country.
She cherished the event, which took her back to the time when she first started as a reporter.
As a reporter, I once again felt today that he or she always have to be prepared with the issue, with the news that you're reporting on that day, meaning that although a news seems something very new happening, something that's going on right now, there's always the background information and always other kinds of news related to that issue. And if you're not updated or prepared with those kind of background information, it's very hard for a reporter to do like a report on that scene on that day right away. And today I felt much more comfortable with the opening ceremony because I did a report a year earlier on the selection of Songdo as the host city for the GCF, so I guess I didn't have that much hard time trying to get to know the issue, and it wasn't a burden that much.
Hello, Mr. Haybecker. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes.
Scott Thompson.
Very nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks.
How are we doing this morning? Good. How's Korea treating you?
Good. I love the country. If you look at my career so far, I've been in more difficult places than Korea, so I appreciate being in a very organized, civilized place. From a professional point of view, it's very easy to work here because the government is very professional. We have a very good dialogue.
I imagine the North Korea defector issue is one of the more dicier ones. Is that?
It is not an issue that we have a lot of dealings with here, but the main topic for Korea is the treatment of North Korean defectors in other neighboring countries, especially the big neighbor.
Right.
Because although being a signatory to the 1951 convention, China does not live up to its obligation to consider them. What we receive here as the Office of UNHCR Korea is pressure or requests from the government to increase or strengthen our advocacy with governments in the region. But it is not easy. It's also, of course, very political, which it shouldn't be. Refugee issues should be non-political and humanitarian, but they are often very political, especially about a country like North Korea.
You mentioned them being used politically. I was watching the news this weekend about the Syrian crisis and the refugee issue there. It's unbelievable what's going on there.
Yeah.
Forget the percentage, but it was a really high percentage of the refugees were children.
Yeah, in every situation, and in Syria, I think the point about this last news release about children, refugee children in the Syria context was a survey that was done on the situation of refugee children, the exploitation, the fact that children cannot go to school inside Syria. There's very little support and almost no hope for them to attend school. And as long as the conflict goes on, it's now for many people been 2 years. Often internal displacement is also not final, like they flee from their original place of origin, to a safer place, and then that place also gets hit, they have to displace again. So they're running
place to place,
several times, and obviously education in those circumstances is very difficult.
And yeah, there's only so much you can do, I would imagine, in those situations too, right? Very difficult.
And then exploitation, child labor, also child prostitution, trafficking and so on is hugely problematic in the Syria context.
Mr. Haybecker, thank you very much for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this month marks the anniversary month of the founding of the UNHCR.
UNHCR is not just working out of capitals, but we work where the refugees are, and they are in many different refugee camps or settlements. We have a support role in that. We work with the Korea Immigration Service, which has a refugee division.